Hi everybody, my name is Catherine Gomes. Thanks for joining me today. I am so excited to talk to you about how to prepare for a great year of math. I have a whole bunch of tips and tricks and 3 things you can do right now to just get you set up for a wonderful year of math. So wouldn't that be great going into the school year full of confidence that this year things are gonna go really well. So again, my name is Catherine Gomes. I was homeschooled myself and now I am homeschooling my 3 kids. And I'm the author of Apologia Math. It's relatively new. So this is the level 1 book and we have 3 levels out. Level 3 came out this year. Let me show you that. This is the level 3 book. So we have levels 1 through 3 out now, and we have plans for more levels. Feel free to ask Apologia those questions. I am so thrilled to have these books out, and it's been really fun to see people engaging with them. So I wrote the Apologia Math series, and I just love math, and I love helping people teach math, especially homeschoolers. So I'm really thrilled to be with you here today. In addition to writing the Apologia Math series for elementary students, I teach high school math at our homeschool co-op, and I teach SAT math online, so I'm kind of like bookended with the math, teaching a lot of different levels, and I'm going to give you suggestions for younger kids and older kids. And of course, there's always suggestions that work for all of us, right? I'm on Facebook. My Facebook page is at Catherine M. Gomes, and I'm on Instagram as at Homeschool Math Mom. So if you want to like or follow me, I post tips and suggestions all year. A lot of times it's things we're doing at home. So we are going to do the Green Book level 2 this year. So if you have a rising 2nd grader, we can do that alongside of each other this year. But I post all kinds of ideas, whether it's for high school students or elementary students. I have a rising kindergartner, so you'll see a lot of kindergarten math. So be sure to find me and follow me, and feel free to post questions there. If anything I go over here isn't specific to your family, I'd love to offer more suggestions. You can also, say hey in the comments, and if I show something and you're like, oh, how would I adjust that for 3rd grade? Feel free. If I don't show you right now, I'll loop back later and give you some thoughts. All right, so I want to talk about how to get ready for a great year of math. This month is like planning month at our house, and so I'm like looking through everything and getting ready, high hopes, a little bit of nervousness about certain subjects. Maybe you're in the same boat. So let's talk about math. I have 3 kind of categories for you. I want to talk to you about how to pick your tools, how to prep your space, and how to plan for pitfalls, okay? So those are my 3 overarching categories that I'm gonna organize all this information for you. So let's talk about picking your tools, all right? We have tools to learn math. I think a lot of times everybody understands you have tools to learn science, right? Like I need to go buy a microscope, but math, that's a little like, wait, what is she talking about? That type of thing. So I'm actually gonna flip my camera around so I can show you several tools, and just right off the bat, I just wanna let you know that the first tool we're gonna talk about is the book, okay? This is my book. I'm teaching pre-calculus this year at our co-op. I am super excited about that. And of course, I have some examples from the Apologia books. All right, let me flip this around. If you can just give me a second. This way it won't be backwards. You'll be able to see what I'm talking about. So the math book is like the #1 tool in learning math. And I think a lot of times we don't think of it that way, that it's a tool for learning. So if you haven't picked a book yet, I want to show you some things to look for in picking a math book and what matters in a math book. And then I'm going to show you how to use your math book as a tool. So let's just start by looking at Apologia Math Level 2, and I'm going to show you some features that are important in a math book. So the first thing you want to look for in a math book is engagement. You want some excitement from your kids when they open their book. So when we worked on Apologia, the covers were super important to us. The color, I love how Apologia does things in full color. We put lots of images in. And of course, we've got games, activities, but not even getting into the content yet.
I just want you to see how this would be a book that your kid's excited about, okay? At our house, we make a really big deal about box day, and when curriculum shows up, we are tearing open those boxes, flipping through, and I'm building it too. Like, aren't you excited to try this? Oh, you have to wait till the end of August, but it's so exciting, because that helps kids get ready to learn. So you want to have a book with some engagement. A little clue is if you feel a little sad about the book and it's not really making you excited, that is maybe not a great sign for your child. So even if you're like, ooh, I can't wait to do this math book, that's great because you're going to pass that on to your kid. And this isn't just about their happiness, although of course I care about kids' happiness. It actually preps their brain for learning. Okay, so it's worth it to get a book that has that engagement. All right. The next thing you want to look for in a book is a little bit invisible. It's more something you feel than see, and that is the progression of ideas. So the best thing to do about this is talk to someone who's used the program, okay? And ask them, when you were using it, how did the program move through ideas, okay? How did it build? How was it like scaffolded so that each day we're doing a little more, but it never was impossible. You don't want it to move too slow, but you don't want it to move too fast, all right? And then finally, the last thing I want to show you about a book is that the design matters. And this is a big passion for me. I have a couple pages I want to show you as an example of this. The more I learn about this, just the more excited I get about it. Design is how we lay the information on the page, right? And so if you take the same information and lay it out in two different ways, that can help kids learn it, or it can make it harder for kids to learn, all right? So when at Apologia, I spend the same amount of time writing all these lessons that I spend laying them out, all right? So it's not that I spend a little bit of time. I spend a lot of time writing it all, and then I spend the same massive amount of time talking with my editor and Homeschool families and another editor about how the information should fit on the page. So for example, if you look at this, lesson 55, this is in the second grade book. The lesson starts with a game, and everything on this page, there's a reason for, okay? Why do we have this picture right here? Because that's the tear out page. And so we're just cueing you as the parent to get that page for the game. We have the instructions here, and we've left space around because that makes it less intimidating. If I had put pictures all over here and things like that, it gets overwhelming for the child. So we have the information they need and nothing else. Now, if I show you this next page, they're playing a game with two-digit subtraction, and this page is where they actually do the work, okay? Now notice that at the top, I've given them a grid. The reason I took the space to give the kids the grid is because second graders can struggle with lining up the 10s and lining up the 1s. And they can also, it's very common for second graders to flip it, like write 23 instead of 32. So for these first 6 problems, I gave them like a graphic organizer on the page to help them, all right? So that's why this is here. But then notice I do scaffold. So down here, I have space for them to practice lining it up on their own. So that's just one example where the design is actually scaffolding the learning. And we're doing that in different ways in the third grade book and the upper level books, but that's the idea, that the design helps them with the learning. So real quick, I want to give you a high school example. For those of you with older kids, anyone with older kids watching, want to give me a shout out in the comments. This is the book I'm using this year at our co-op. I'm teaching high school pre-calculus, and there's a couple things that had me pick this one. I looked at pre-calculus books forever. It was like a hobby for me. I know everybody has different things they like to Google and waste time on. I was looking at pre-calc books. So I did like that there's images and there's color. High school math books don't have to be sad, okay? We can have interesting things in high school math books. I liked the use of boxes for important information. I liked the visuals and the way they were showing the same information in a table and then in a graph. But the coolest thing about this, and the reason I chose it, is because it's a smart textbook. It has an internet component, so my students can scan this and get video, okay? And there's a whole website with this that has quiz questions and videos of each example. So something I would say to consider when you're picking a high school book is it's really hard to put all of high school pre-calculus on a page. Like those high school maths, that's a lot to explain in text. So a video component is key. I mean, this probably, makes sense to you intuitively, like trying to explain this example on a page, you could do in a video so much more easily. So that's why I have this. It maybe doesn't have the same level of engagement as, Apologia second grade math, but it does have a nice progression of ideas and it has that help for kids. So that is what I would look for in picking a book. Now let's assume that you already chose your book. What are some things you can do to use your book as a tool? Well, first of all, for like middle school and high schoolers, I actually have a handout, and we have this for you if you're interested in it. This is what I would do on the first day of class every time I taught math, is we would look at the textbook and we would go through this handout and talk about how the textbook was a tool for learning. Okay, so imagine you're in my class in co-op when we start. I'm gonna walk the kids through, look how this is structured. There's examples. There's something online if you didn't understand the example. Let's look at the back. Are there answers in the back? Yes, you can check your answers. All the resources that are here, the reference materials that are provided. We have, formula sheets and that type of thing. This might seem basic, but a lot of kids go through the year using the book, not realizing how much was given to them to help them learn it. In Apologia math, a basic flip through, sorry about that. A basic flip through can make a big difference, okay? You should do this as the parent, but even just have your kid do this. Just looking, okay, at the beginning of the year, what kinds of things are we gonna learn? Oh, we're gonna learn about time. Oh, that's exciting. Do you see anything you recognize from last year? Oh, we did addition last year. How's this different? Well, we're doing big numbers. Those kinds of discussions, just get your child ready to jump into this book. And even having them see, wow, like she's got some codes coming up and we're gonna learn about measurement. All of that is getting them ready to use the book. You don't have to take a long time on that, right? Just quick, getting them excited, priming them for learning. All right, so that's the book. Now, the book is not the only tool. We have so many other tools for learning. And in elementary, the big tool for learning is manipulatives. Let me show you a few of my favorites. All right, so definitely you need to look and see course specific, look at your program and what they suggest, because depending on the math content, that is going to affect what manipulatives you choose. But I have some of my all-time favorites, and I've even done videos just on manipulatives, because not all manipulatives are equal. Some have, I think more value for the investment. These are linking cubes. It's as simple as that. They're cubes that link, so you can snap them apart, stick them together. These guys are great for so many things, but I definitely like them for early elementary, for addition and subtraction. Okay, so these guys, I'm big fans of those. Base 10 blocks, oh my goodness. My friends make fun of me because I get so excited about these base 10 blocks. It's because they're super cool and you can do so many things with them. If you're not familiar, what is a base 10 block? It's very simple. They are blocks that represent place value, okay? So this little guy is 1. This guy is 10. 1 flat is 100, and this is 1,000. And you can use them for a lot of things, all right? You can do them for subtraction, like build a number and then take things away. You can use them to practice place value, so you can be like, how much is this? Oh, it's 111. I've even found that you can use them for decimals. If you redefine things, you say, okay, this is 1 whole, this is 1/10, this is 1/100th. You can practice adding and subtracting decimals. So you get so much bang for your buck out of those guys. Now, we could go on and on about all the different manipulatives you can use, but the main thing is look at your content and just get set up ahead of time so that when you jump into addition and subtraction, you're ready to go with a hands-on way to represent it for your child. One other one I'll add in here, just because this is so simple. This is so good for elementary. Uno cards, I mean, you probably already have them. We have 3 sets of Uno cards in our house. We're a little obsessed. These can be used for so many games and activities, and the numerals are nice and big. So like a simple one we play if we're practicing 2-digit addition is you flip over 4 cards and you have to make the largest sum. So your child's like, okay, well, where should I put these digits to make the largest sum? What if I do this? Is that going to be bigger or smaller? All with Uno cards, okay? Those are lots of fun. At the high school level, there's some different tools. And I could talk about a lot of different things, but I just want to give a quick plug for my favorite calculator. This is the TI-83, and I'm requiring this of my pre-calc students. I strongly recommend it to my SAT students. I love this calculator because it has what you need, and it doesn't have a lot of other things. One of the main things that it has is the graphing capability. So people go back and forth on calculators. Is it good? Is it bad? The answer is both. So it's really important to be able to do math without a calculator. But for certain types of math, being able to see it visually with a graph real quick, or being able to make a table and analyze that table can really help you. So make the investment in a good graphing calculator. Okay, so those are all your tools, and depending on what math you're going to do, it's going to affect which tools you're going to use. All right, let me flip this back around. Okay, hopefully nobody's dizzy. Thanks for hanging with me there. All right, so those are pick your tools. So assume you have your book and you have your calculator and all those types of things. If you're taking geometry, you have your protractor and your straight edge and that type of thing, all right? If you're doing Algebra 1, you've got a different set of tools. The next thing I want to encourage you to do is prep your space. So prep a math space. So this tip is so simple, but it really is a game changer. I have tutored so many homeschool students who struggle with math. And there's a lot of different common denominators I've seen, but one of the big ones was disorganization and not having all your stuff together, and like you can't find your notebook, or where are your notes, that type of thing. And I am not saying that in a judgmental way, because I was the queen of disorganization in school. And it wasn't really until I realized I'll be a terrible teacher if I don't organize, that I retrained myself. So organization is a key skill for a mathematician, and it makes a big difference. So I'm gonna give you some simple suggestions, and I hope they don't sound overly simple, but just take it from me. They're game changers, okay? So let's talk elementary, all right? In elementary, you, the parent, are kind of responsible for the organization. Pick a space that's your math space. Mine is actually right here, because we do math in the kitchen. And in that space, you're gonna have your book, okay? And we're using Apologia Math, so we're gonna keep the teaching guide and the book together, all right? Now, those are not our only materials for math. We also have all our manipulatives. So I created a bin. Let me show you. This is my math bin. Listen, I started this last year, and this changed my life. It really, I'm posting about it everywhere on Instagram, and people are like, it's just a bin. It's not just a bin. It's gonna change your life. So here's the deal. In my bin, I keep all my manipulatives, okay? They're all in here, and you're not allowed to use them if you're not doing math. This is why we have 3 sets of Uno cards, because I need to know that the Uno cards are in the bin. Because in our house, if we are working on math
and we need Uno cards and we can't find them, we go searching the house, and by the time we find the Uno cards, we've lost like an hour because it's just like the focus is gone and the whole thing. So I have everything set up, and I actually, before the school day starts, I lay out the manipulatives we need for that lesson. I have a 2-year-old. We have to be organized. So this is what I would highly recommend, and I'm in the process right now of taking out some of the first grade stuff and putting in the second grade stuff. I know in second grade we're gonna need coins, and coins is one of those things that are everywhere until you are teaching the math lesson on coins and you can't find a quarter. So I'm like, we're just gonna put some coins in here and they're gonna stay in the bin. All right, so that's about as deep as it gets in elementary. We have our book, we have our bin, okay? In high school and middle school, you're starting to transition a little bit where the kid's organizing, right? So you can shepherd over this, but this should be your child. So let me just tell you what I told my high school students. They have their book. So maybe you're wondering about this book. It's kind of interesting. You can buy it loose leaf and put it in a 3-ring binder, okay? So that's why it looks like this. My high schoolers, I'm recommending that they only put the first third of the book in this binder, and then they're also gonna put their notebook paper in here. The other big thing that I get super passionate about is that they have graph paper. So this is huge for middle school and high school. You're like, why are you so passionate? Because I've seen this go wrong, okay? When kids don't have graph paper, they go to draw graphs on paper like this, and that's really hard, especially if you're a struggling math student. Drawing and labeling a graph on here, you're gonna hate your life. I don't know how else to say it to you. You really need to have graph paper. So you have a couple options. I have this graph paper notebook that I love, and I would recommend that you just do all your problems on here and you have graph paper if you need it. And if not, the grid actually helps you organize your math. I was at Target and they were selling loose leaf graph paper, and it was beautiful and it was cheap, and I got super excited right there in Target. So that's another option. So you could just pop it in the binder and you have it all together. The one other resource, I got so excited about graph paper that I worked with my mom, Deborah Bell, to create this free printable. We actually have it for you guys. We have the link. If it's not posted now, I'll post it later. But this is just a graph paper printable that's like super simple, but it's laid out well. There's 4 graphs on a page. And this is like the basic one. It's gonna be backwards, but I'll show you. Sorry about the backwardsness. It's just up to 10. It's like the space you need for a general one. Then we created one that was Algebra 1 specific. So beneath each graph, it has you label the slope and the y-intercept, right? I put that because I saw what my kids were struggling with. And then we have an Algebra 2-ish one where it has put the vertex and the x-intercepts for parabolas. So go grab that for free and run off a bunch of copies for your child, and it will help them so much. You'll be surprised later. You'll be like, you were right about that graph paper thing. Okay, so for the high schooler, they have their book, their graph paper, their notebook, and their calculator with batteries all together. And you do your math, and then you put it back. That's it. It makes such a difference. Okay, so we picked our tools. We prepped our space. We have that all organized. We're finding our stuff over the summer, so it's all together. The last thing I want to talk to you about is planning for pitfalls. Planning for pitfalls. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you're thinking, okay, we had a rough year last year in math, or maybe you're thinking, we often have a rough year in math, or maybe you've never had a rough year, but whatever math is coming, you're a little nervous about, like, we're gonna learn multiplication this year in 3rd grade. I wonder how that's gonna go. Or you're gonna take pre-calculus. And you're like, okay. Instead of just worrying about it, let's make a plan for how we're gonna make it happen. So I wanna give a quick shout out to my mom's planner. These are also from Apologia. They're amazing, okay? I'm kind of obsessed with them. I do love my mom. That's not why I love this planner. This is the one I did this year. I'm debating showing it to you because it's like, it's kind of organized chaos. It's full. I'm on like the last spot. And this is my beautiful planner for this upcoming year. So if you go on Apologia's website, they have great videos and all these things that show you the planner. But what I love about the planner the most is that the way you use the planner is you start with the year, and you look at like an overview of the whole year, and you block dates, and you're like, oh my gosh, November is going to be crazy because I have a manuscript due, or I'm going to be potty training, and you kind of think about the year as a whole. So I know from experience now that in September and October, we're trying to find our groove. We still like to take field trips. We don't get through as much in September and October as I would think we would. And then in January, we just like pound through the school because there's nothing else to do, okay? So I kind of know the rhythm of our school year. So you do that for the year, and then there are places to do the month, okay? And you do month by month, and I write in the dates, and then what I do is I just put my goals for that month. So so far I've planned reading and science. I haven't even planned math yet. So I have here how many reading lessons we need to get done in November, how many earth science, we're using the Apologia earth science book, how many of those lessons we're gonna do for that month. And then I stop there, and then when I get to that month, I break it down by week and by day. And that has been so helpful, because if I break it down more than that now in July, I tend to be unrealistic. I put too much on our plates. The other thing is, when I use the planner, I block in grace weeks. I'm not sure what to call them, like catch-up weeks, like real life happened and we're behind weeks. So I block those, and every time I do that, I'm always like, oh, if we just keep doing math through this week, we'll get through so much more. But whenever I hit that week in the actual experience, I'm like, this is so good. Like, I've noticed that my son is a little rusty with subtraction. We're gonna do subtraction math games this week, or let's just do some read alouds and kind of get our love of reading back. So that's really helpful. Okay, so that's about planning. How do you plan specifically for pitfalls? So if you think that your child might have trouble with math this year, I tell parents that families I've tutored, and I'm telling you now, come up with some type of quantitative measure for when you're gonna get help. So like a good one is with middle schoolers or high schoolers, if you fall below 70% on a quiz or a test, we're gonna get help. Okay, so as soon as you see that, that's like, whoop, whoop, we need help. Now, what does help look like? It can be Khan Academy, it can be sitting down with dad and he's gonna go over it with you. It can be calling Mrs. Gomes and she's gonna help you get unstuck. You have to kind of figure that out for your child. But the important thing is, as soon as they get a little bit lost, below a 70% on something, that's when you get the help. Whatever you do, don't just like, okay, it's gonna be okay, and they keep plowing ahead and they're getting more and more lost, and then they're lost for like 3 months before they start trying to dig themselves out. So that's more for older kids. For younger kids, I think, just gauging it in the same way, and if you see that they're starting to get a little lost, some things that can help are math games, an older sibling, looking at it in a different way. Another tip that really helps with younger kids is manipulatives. So when you learn math, you start on manipulatives, then you work with pictures, and then you do math symbols. And if your child's ever struggling, you go backwards. So if they aren't getting a math concept, you can draw a picture. If they're still not getting it, you can have them act it out with blocks. I think sometimes as parents, we're like, I don't want to pull the blocks back out. That's okay, just pull the blocks back out, have them do some problems, and then you can kind of ease them back off the blocks. So that's my tip for that. All right, well, I hope this was helpful, and I hope it gave you some practical suggestions for how you can get ready for this year. If you have specific questions, feel free to tag in the comments, or find me on Facebook at Catherine M. Gomes, or on Instagram, I'm at Homeschool Math Mom. And thank you so much for joining me.